If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally, freely, and upbraideth not. In other words, don't blame God. If there's any blame, it would be to yourself and not God. God is never to blame. If any man lack wisdom, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally, in other words, freely. You didn't earn it, it's a gift. And upbraideth not, in other words, don't blame God, and it shall be given him. The wisdom that is from above is first pure, so it's totally pure, totally clean, all good, nothing evil or bad in it. Wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, it seeks to bring peace, gentle, and easy to be entreated. In other words, it would work out all round, it's reasonable, it's good for you, and it's good for everybody else, including God. So the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, works out all round, including God. Full of mercies and good fruits, without hypocrisy. So, with such words, should, of course, they be coming from above and not from your own mind and from yourself, would any of us go with soul-searching words? What about words that reach right into the soul? Soul-searching words, as in self-honesty or not? And a lot of wisdom is, of course, recorded down that did come from above. Many might go with wisdom that is from above and fancy, let's say, in their wildest dreams, the top of the mountain wisdom that came from above. And with this, you're getting wisdom that from above, that's first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of good mercy, full of mercy and good fruits, etc., without hypocrisy. And again, without hypocrisy, you can't just point the finger at everybody else and not yourself. Upbraideth not is never God's fault. If anyone's to blame, it has to be, often it's all, to various degrees. So self-honesty, easy to be entreated, it's good for you, and it's good for everybody else, and everyone should yield all around and not simply point everybody else and say they're all to blame and it's never me. It's often us, it's often other people to various degrees. So it's easily entreated, works out all round, it's reasonable and good for all, and everyone might need to compromise here. So here's an interesting scenario. Let's say soul-searching words, wisdom from above, all sounds incredible, even top of the mountain stuff, which is very appealing, of course. People would love to have these top of the mountain experiences where God comes down to the top of the mountain and you hear the voice of God. Well, interesting to see, in short, let's say, how this played out with the children of Israel. So what you have is Moses, he's gone up to the top of the mountain. So at the top of the mountain stuff, the wisdom that's from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercies and good fruits. So it works out all round without hypocrisy. Well, here's Moses coming down from the top of the mountain, and you would say his wisdom that's coming from above is without hypocrisy, because everything he's preaching, he's doing, well, not necessarily always so, with the children of Israel that were quickly out of the way. And you think to yourself, well, how often are we quickly out of the way? And we do have short memories, examples in the New Testament. Jesus feeds the 5,000 with a few small loaves and a few fishes. And the disciples themselves witness all this, giving all of this bread coming out of their hands and all these fishes just miraculously coming out of their hands, though initially they might have had one might have had a tail of a fish, one might have had a head, one might have had an end of a loaf or a piece of a loaf, and when they gave that loaf away or that fish away or that part of that fish or part of that loaf away, Jesus broke the bread and went through the hands of the disciples and out of their hands into the hands of 5,000 people in the wilderness. And so miraculously, they had all of these parts of fish. All of these fish, were they whole fish or were they parts of fish? It says break the bread, so they break the bread, they break the fish. And the more they broke the bread, the more they broke the fish, the more fish and bread would come out of their hands. Very miraculous stuff. So 5 loaves and 2 small fishes, as I recall the story, and those 5 loaves and 2 fishes feeding more than 5,000 people. It simply quotes the men and not the women and the children. So, but the same day, the children of God of that day, the 12 disciples of that day, were quickly out of the way, taking off in the boat to go back home or wherever they were going. Their hearts were hardened. So though they'd witnessed a miracle, a massive miracle that day, their hearts were hardened the same day, quickly out of the way. Well, here's Moses, and he's up to the top of the mountain in Exodus chapter 19. And Moses went up to God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain. So he's going to the top of the mountain, he's going up to God. Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, in other words, Jacob had his name changed to Israel, the children of Israel, and tell the children of Israel. So Jacob meaning Israel, Jacob had his name changed to Israel. So God's talking to the children of Israel. And he's telling them at first, you might say, pleasant things, wonderful things, things that people might always even dream of. Religious people tend to have their dreams. And everyone wants to be, let's say, the chosen one or the chosen people, the special one, and so on. And so you have the Lord speaking to Moses at the top of the mountain, telling them wonderful things. You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians. So in other words, he's saying to Moses to tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bear you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. So the children of Israel had witnessed all of these marvelous miracles in the land of Egypt. And in other words, these wings of an eagle, symbolic of all of these miracles that God did in bringing them out of Egypt into the wilderness. And really, in the New Testament, it talks of the woman, the bride of Christ. This would have been the bride of Christ in the Old Testament. It was Jesus, of course, coming down to the top of that mountain in the presence of one of his angels in the Old Testament. So this is the bride of Christ in the wilderness of Moses' day, coming out of Egypt on eagle's wings. And in the last days, in the book of Revelation, it talks of the bride of Christ to the woman. In other words, the bride of Christ was given 2 wings of a great eagle. In other words, miraculous power from God, 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished of God for a times, and the dividing of time. So time, 1 year, times 2 years, 3 years, adding up. And the dividing of times, half a year. So 3.5 years in the wilderness, God's going to look after the children of God in the last days, with much like he did with Moses in his day, bringing them out of the society of his day, being Egypt. The last days, it'll be the society, of course, of the New World Order being brought out into the wilderness on miraculous wings, all sounding like wonderful stuff, and God performing these various miracles and looking after the children of God in the last days, as he did in Moses' day. So all very wonderful stuff, and wonderful to hear to the ears, miraculous things, wonderful things. Well, ye have heard what I did unto the Egyptians, how I bare you on eagles' wings, and brought you unto myself. Well, wonderful things to hear. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice, indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me, right? A peculiar treasure unto me. So a special kind of people, and God's peculiar treasure, God treasuring you like you might treasure a peculiar treasure. People have these peculiar treasures and they treasure them and keep them forever. And this is really what God, of course, is saying, and that sounds really wonderful, to be someone's peculiar treasure. So delightful words to the ears, and very nice to hear that you could be God's peculiar. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, make this agreement with God, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. So God's chosen ones, God's special ones. And this is often the case, really, with religious people. Everyone tends to think they're God's peculiar treasure, God's special one. But it comes with terms. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice, indeed, and keep my covenant, well, obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you'll be God's peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. Well, the children of Israel of that day were priests, and priests really are those that bring God's words to the people. Words coming from God that are first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without hypocrisy. And this is the thing, is Moses, and he's bringing these words to the people, and you would say indeed he's getting wisdom from God from the top of the mountain, that is first pure and peaceable, full of good fruits and full of mercy, and without hypocrisy is the thing. Without hypocrisy is the thing. It has to be emphasized. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. All sounds good. You're a kingdom of priests. You're bringing God's words to the people. You're getting these words from God. You're a priest. You're high up on the top of this mountain, so to speak, getting all of this wisdom from God that is first pure, peaceful, gentle, easy to be entreated. You're one of God's special chosen people, and you're his peculiar treasure, because you are choosing to obey God. All this sounds good. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So Moses comes down from the top of the mountain. He gets this wisdom from God. The wisdom that's from above is first pure, peaceful, gentle, easy to be entreated. It sounds very good, and everyone's going to go along with it, full of mercy and good fruits, and without hypocrisy. So they love the sound of all this being God's peculiar treasure. He's chosen people above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord hath spoken we will do. they'll do all these things. Everything God has spoken, we will do. We will be his peculiar people. We will be God's chosen above all peoples that are upon the face of the earth. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So he goes back to the Lord. He says, yes, we have a deal. We have an agreement. All the people are going to obey your voice and going to keep your covenant, keep the agreement. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud. So you could say they've made a deal here, but God's, of course, knows human nature. And so he's kind of sealing the deal in a dramatic way. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee and believe thee forever. It's one thing coming down from the top of the mountain and saying, well, yes, I got this from God. But anyone can do that, and all you got is their word for it. Well, God's not going to demonstrate Moses' words. Moses' words are going to be demonstrated by God and give weight to those words by indeed coming down to the top of the mountain in the sight of the people. They're indeed going to see, as it says here, the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. So you could say, let's kind of seal the deal here and demonstrate to the people this is a deal that you're making with God himself. Moses simply the messenger here, and bringing God's words to the people. And now these words are going to be demonstrated in plain sight, that you do realise what you're doing. You do realise that you're making a deal with God himself. You're saying all the people answered and together and said, all that the Lord have spoken we will do. So God saying, okay, look, all that Moses has spoken you will do. Well, I'm going to come down to the top of the mountain and we'll see how we go with all this then. So God does indeed come down to the top of the mountain. And so it says we're in Exodus chapter 20, verse 18. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings, just as Moses said would happen, just as God said to Moses, this would happen, that all of the people are going to see this, and hear God's voice. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they moved and stood afar off. So God's kind of adding weight to his words. And let's see these people, the children of Israel, have made an agreement with God. And let's see how this plays out. The wisdom that's from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated. All sounds good, all sounds wonderful. You're going to be a peculiar people, a peculiar treasure unto God. And you're going to be chosen above all peoples, all nations on the earth, if you will obey God's voice. So God coming down to the top of the mountain, just as he said he would to Moses, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet, the mountain smoking, and when people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. So in other words, God is one God, and there's no other gods beside God. And ye shall not make with me gods of silver, like there's some other God as well as God. There's only one God. So these are the words of God that the children of Israel are hearing from God. They're not hearing this from Moses, they're hearing it from God. All that the Lord says we will do, they're making this agreement with God. God's going to come down to the top of the mountain and let's seal the deal. You'll hear God's voice, you'll see these thunderings on the top of the mountain, and let's see how we go. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. Well, that was on the first day, you would say, and Moses, it turns out he was up at the top of that mountain 40 days talking with God, and they hear the voice of God on, let's say, day one. Well, they make the deal with God, they make the agreement with God, but the problem is with humans and human nature, us humans, we are so quickly out of the way. We seem to have short memories. And you read here the people fearing God, and the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off from the mountain, right? And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. They're frightened of the voice of God. This is God whom they've made the deal with. And God kind of bringing this home to them and demonstrating to them, you do realise, of course, that all that the Lord says we will do, you're making a deal with God. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. Well, Moses taking all of these words to the people, hearing from God, and let's see how it all played out. Moses up there now at the top of the mountain, talking with God, and the people, upon hearing the voice of God, and seeing all of these thunderings and lightnings and thick darkness and what was it, and the Lord, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they moved and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. So, and Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. Well, you think, well, surely after hearing the voice of God, how many people get to hear the voice of God himself speaking, coming down from the top of the mountain and seeing all this thundering and lightning and this trumpet blowing and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking and all of this? Surely they're going to obey God. Surely they won't be quickly out of the way. Well, Moses continues to stay at the top of this mountain for 40 days as it happened, and the people have obviously heard the voice of God and seen these thundering and lightnings on the top of the mountain. Well, all very much top of the mountain stuff, and surely upon hearing the voice of God and seeing all of this on the top of the mountain, you would surely keep your part of the deal. Well, so Moses is now on the top of the mountain. All of this drama on the top of the mountain, breaking out in the sight and ears of the children of Israel. And Moses then appears to delay his coming down from the top of the mountain. So you think, wow, surely the people simply, after seeing all of this, are going to wait for Moses to come down and continue with the deal. They've sealed the deal. They've heard the voice of God. Yes, all of the Lord says, we will do and obey. They now know who they're making a deal with. And it's God himself. How many people get to hear the voice of God and make a deal with God himself? Well, all of this is what the Lord said. If you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you'll be a peculiar treasure. Then you'll be a chosen people above all nations that are upon the face of the earth, as long as you keep God's words. Well, let's see what happens in, quickly turn over the page here. And when we're in Exodus chapter 32, so they're waiting for Moses to come back down. How long after the agreement was made were they quickly out of the way? Well, what was the last thing they heard God say? That he wouldn't want any other gods beside him, made of either silver or gold, or in place of him, made of gold. Well, it didn't take long with their short memory to go quickly out of the way, and this is the thing. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mountain, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, that brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So what happened to the deal with God? You've heard the voice of God coming down to the top of the mountain. It all sounds wonderful. You're God's peculiar, you're his special little peculiar treasure. And you hear his voice, and all of that he says, we will do. How long after were they quickly out of the way? We're looking at how long does it take to make a golden calf, to get their earrings and gold pieces up together and throw this into a mould and make a golden calf. What was the last thing God said? He wouldn't want any other gods beside him or in place of him, made of either silver or gold. Well, here they are making a golden calf out of gold, probably about 2 or 3, how many weeks after they sealed the deal. They're quickly out of the way. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation. Aaron is the one second in command, don't forget. A proclamation said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. This is the new Lord. And they rose up early in the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. In other words, they had a big party, rose up to play, and had a big party and an orgy and all this in the sight of this new Lord, this golden calf, which they are now calling God. Well, what was the last thing God said? Don't make he doesn't want any other gods beside me or in place of him, made of either gold or silver. Well, they heard the voice of God and they're quickly out of the way. So what does the Lord himself say about all this? The golden calf was a dumb old idol and couldn't speak one word. And here's all the children of Israel now worshipping this dumb idol made of gold. And of course, what does Moses is still at the top of the mountain while all this is going on? And it didn't seem like long after the deal. How long does it take to build this this golden calf, and maybe a couple of weeks in after the deal was sealed, the children of Israel are quickly out of the way. And you can see really here why God was so angry with the people. How many people get to hear the voice of God at the top of the mountain and see all of these incredible sights? The dark cloud and the thunderings and the lightnings and the sound of a trumpet that waxed long. So, and the Lord said unto Moses, go, get thee down. So 40 days later now. And the Lord said unto Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way, which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunder, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, and I make of thee a great nation. So I guess you can see why God's anger would have waxed hot. He's come down to the top of the mountain, he's let these people hear his voice. And they make this agreement with God, but they're quickly out of the way. So you think, wow, it's one thing imagining and assuming and dreaming and visualizing that you're God's peculiar treasure. You're the chosen people, or the chosen one above all nations that are upon the face of the earth. You're God's man, you're God's prophet, you're hearing his voice. You're getting all of these wonderful words that are coming from heaven, that are first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, and without hypocrisy. Well, practicing what you're preaching is extremely a massive obstacle for anyone to overcome. And how many of us are quickly out of the way? We can preach one thing one day and do the same thing, do the very opposite the next day, or that the Lord says we will do. Only a few days later, or a couple of weeks later, they are bowing down to another god, the very opposite of what God told them not to do. Well, this is the thing, if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be soul-searching even unto ourselves. In our wildest dreams, we might imagine we're the prophet, we're the man of God, we're the voice of God, etc., etc. But how many of us are quickly out of the way? How many do indeed get some form of a vision or a revelation from God? And even so, they are quickly out of the way. So you think, wow, you can see from all of this, the wisdom that's from above is first pure, then gentle, easy to be entreated. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally. In other words, he giveth to all men freely, and upbraideth not. Don't blame God. If it all goes wrong, don't blame God. If there's something wrong in our lives, then it has to be us and not God. Why? So often it's because we're quickly out of the way. Can God trust us with these miracles? Did he trust the children of Israel? Even though he came down from the top of the mountain and they heard his voice. Even though they saw the thunderings and lightnings and had no doubt as to what Moses said. Moses saying to them, well, this is what's going to happen. And indeed, it did happen. Moses saying, go and wash yourselves and everything. 3 days' time, God is coming down to the top of the mountain, and it did indeed happen. Everything that Moses said would happen, did happen. Because God told him it was going to happen. He was indeed God's prophet and God's man. Well, how many people say they get these prophecies and they never happen? How many people say God said this and it never happened? How many people dream they're the man of God and this year or that year this is going to happen or that's going to happen, and it never does? So we are also quickly out of the way is the thing. And can God trust us with these miracles? And again, interesting to simply jump in here and maybe go to, with all of this in mind, and let's go here first. We're in Luke chapter 11. We all might want these things, and we all might ask God for all kinds of things. So what's standing in our way? Do we really want it bad enough? Is it even good for us? Would it be good for us to hear God coming down to the top of the mountain? Would it not lift us up in pride? Would it be good for us to think we are God's peculiar treasure, here chosen above all people that are upon the face of the earth? Would this not bring us into pride? Is also the thing. And do we want it bad enough, so bad enough that we're willing to make an agreement with God and obey God's voice? And should God give us it, would we continue to stay in the way, is the thing, or would we be quickly out of the way? Well, interesting in the way that God works. First, he'll prove you and test you and try you to see if you really want this bad enough before he actually gives you it. Well, the children of Israel appeared to have wanted all of this bad enough, but they were quickly out of the way. And actually, the older generation that actually heard the voice of God died off in the wilderness through disobedience. They continually rebelled against God and hardened their hearts. And though at first they were God's peculiar treasure, they were always quickly out of the way. Well, they obviously didn't want it bad enough. Well, here's Luke chapter 11. Do we really want this? Do we want it bad enough that we would actually follow through and obey God's voice all the way through, as people like Moses did? Because Moses made a few mistakes along the way, being a human. But in the main, he obeyed God's voice and wasn't so quickly out of the way. Do we really want this? How hungry are we for it? Are we ready to forsake all for it? Jesus saying, if any man, so likewise, whosoever be that forsake not all that he have, he cannot be my disciple. Are we willing to give up on our own way? We might initially say, we put our hand to the plough. He that putteth his hand to the plough and looketh back is not fit for the kingdom of God, as they weren't back then, and they hardened their hearts so many times that God washed his hands of them and let them die off in the wilderness. So did they want it bad enough? Why did they so continually go out of the way? And this is sometimes one of the problems with us all, and this is soul-searching words, and we have to ask ourselves, how quickly are we just like them? If we're to be honest, so quickly out of the way, even though we might have been given messages and revelations or dreams or whatever from God that's coming from a miraculous voice of God. In the same sense, first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, good for you, good for all, without full of mercy and good fruits and without hypocrisy. Do we really preach and practice everything we preach? How badly do we really want all of this so we're not so completely and quickly out of the way, as so many were? So it's interesting when you read chapter 11, this man really wanted something, and this is often how God works. He proves you and tests you first to see if you really want it. So chapter 11, verse 5. And this is Jesus, right? He said unto them, which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight, right? And say unto him, friend, lend me 3 loaves. For a friend of mine in his journey is come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. Right? And he from within shall answer and say, so it's late at night, the person's in bed, he thinks, oh, well, he's probably just barking on. Does he really want 3 loaves? Is it that important? Oh, it's late at night, kind of like this is Jesus giving a story here. God's going to first try you and prove you to see what's in your heart. Do you really want this? Do you really want it bad enough? Do you want it so much that you're going to obey my voice? You want a miracle, right? You want something to happen. You want something miraculous in your life. So what happens after the miraculous event happens to you? Are you going to be quickly out of the way? So God's going to first test this person here to see if that's what he really wants. This person here wants these 3 loaves of bread. Well, he's come to, because we all need rest. We've all got our little lot in life. And the last thing we want is someone coming to us asking for something in order to overload us, only to find out they didn't really want it in the beginning. You went to all that trouble to get up 2 o'clock in the morning, give them bread. Wow, and then you find out they didn't even want it anyway, and you lost a good night's sleep over it. So he said unto them, which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight, and say unto him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves. For a friend of mine in his journey has come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. And he from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not. The door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give thee. So he's kind of thinking, yeah, I bet you don't really want it. He says he wants this, and yeah, he's got someone come round, he needs this loaf of bread, but he's always saying things like that, or is he? We know what he's like. You go to all this trouble. A few days later, you think, well, how did you get on with that bread? Or you go and visit him, and you see it in the cupboard, it's all gone mouldy. Well, what is all that about? You get me up 2 in the morning for 3 loaves of bread, and they're in the cupboard there, gone mouldy. You're just wasting my time. I say, and I cannot rise and give, so this person in the house is thinking, well, he'll probably just go away. He doesn't really want it. He's not as hungry as he says he is. If I give him these loaves of bread, then he's probably just wasting my time. It's just, And from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not, the door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give thee. Let's just see if he goes away. I say unto you, this is Jesus speaking, because I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, well, yeah, he's his friend. I guess I should give him it because he's my friend, but I know what my friend's like. He says he wants something, he says he's going to do this and do that, but I go to all this trouble, next thing you know, he hasn't even done it, he didn't even want it, I wasted my time. I say unto you that though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he needeth. Importunity, look that word up, means he's persistent. I do want this, I need this, I've got to have it, but I've got a friend come round, please get up, this really is important. I'm not messing you around, I do need this bread, I do need it so badly. And the person in bed's thinking, well, he ain't going to shut up. I guess he does need it this time. Maybe if I give him this bread this time, he is going to cut it up and feed his hungry friends. Okay, look, you can just stop barking on. I believe you this time. I can see you mean business. You really want this. You definitely want this. I'll get up, I'll give you the bread, and then you can go on your way and give your friends the bread. Wow, he really wanted it this time. So, very interesting when you see the story of Bartemaeus here. So here's Bartemaeus, and he really wants this. He really wants Jesus to heal him on this occasion. And we're in John chapter 9. Or are we? I think I've lost the page. So, praise Jesus. The Mark has come out, but I will have to tell the story in my own words. I can't remember where the page was. But anyway, it's a man called Bartemaeus. Let's have a look. Maybe I can find the page here. So, we're in Mark chapter 10, and we're in verse 46. And you have the story of Bartemaeus. Now, he really wants this. People are telling him to shut up, go away. But he really wants it. He's not going to listen to them. He's not going to shut up. He's not going to be silenced. He's going to keep on barking. He's going to be like that man who, I want this, I really want this. I need this, I've got to have it. He means business. Let's see what happens to Bartimaeus. So Mark chapter 10. Verse 46, and they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. Now he's begging for it. He's like the man who's at the bottom of the window. I need bread, I've got to have it. Please, please give me the bread, I've got to have it. He means business. And when he came to Jericho, he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus. So he's got this massive crowd following Jesus. They're all following him. They're following this wonderful, miracle-working man. I wonder how many stayed with him, thought they wanted it. Things got tough, like they did for the children of Israel. Moses delayed his coming down from the top of the mountain. Well, here's all of these people following Jesus, and they appear to really want it. Often Jesus would give a sermon, and no one would listen to him, and everyone would desert him. Except ye eat my flesh and drink my blood, you cannot enter into the kingdom of God. This is a hard saying. And everyone leaving Jesus when he would say certain words. So, and they came to Jericho, and he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people. Blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, everyone's heard of Jesus of Nazareth, this is the miracle man. He began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. So he's asking Jesus for mercy. He's no doubt aware that he's not the best of people. He no doubt has made many mistakes in his life. He's asking for mercy. Please, Jesus, give me mercy. He really wants this. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And many are hearing this, blind Bartimaeus. So shut up, blind Bartimaeus, stop barking on. Jesus has got better things to do than to mess around with you. But did blind Bartimaeus shut up? And many charged him that many charged Bartimaeus. And many charged him that he should hold his peace. Shut up, Bartimaeus, stop barking on. Jesus has got better things to do than mess around with you. And he cried the more a great deal. He really wants this. Thou son of David, have mercy on me. He's asking for mercy. He's crying out for mercy. I really need this. I've got to have this. I'm sick of begging by this wayside here. I'm just a beggar. Thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, Be of good cheer, be of good comfort. Rise, he calleth thee. And he cast away his garment, rose, and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered unto him, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? Do you really want this? Not that Jesus didn't know already. He's crying out for Jesus to have mercy on him. He's blind, he's a beggar, he can't see. Everyone telling him to shut up. They've seen him there every day. They've seen him there for weeks. They've seen him there for years. He's always by the wayside begging. He's always been a beggar because everyone knows he's blind. So, and he cried, Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called, and they called the blind man, saying unto him, Be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. And he cast away his garment, rose, and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered, said unto him, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way. So blind Bartimaeus here now following Jesus in the way once he was healed. Jesus healing him, and then he follows him in the way. He followed Jesus once he was healed. So we're all looking for miracles in our lives, but will we seal the deal? Will we follow God in the way? Will we keep his commandments and keep his covenant? Even though what would be the use of God performing a miracle for us if we're just going to continue to harden our heart and be so quickly out of the way? Blind Bartimaeus is healed, and then he follows Jesus in the way. So praise Jesus.